The moment King Charles crossed the Atlantic, landed in America, stood just a short flight away from his own son, and still refused to see him, the entire royal game changed forever. That was not a scheduling issue. That was not a misunderstanding. That was a royal verdict delivered in absolute silence. And when the king walked away without a meeting, without a phone call, without even the appearance of reconciliation, one brutal message echoed across the monarchy: Prince Harry is no longer part of the future. Imagine the shock behind closed doors. America was supposed to be Harry's territory now. Montecito was supposed to be the fortress. Yet the king arrived on U.S. soil and still treated Harry like a stranger outside the gates. No detour, no family moment, no emotional reunion for cameras, just cold protocol and sharper priorities. And if you think that was the real story, wait until you hear what happened next. Because while Harry was being ignored, someone else was being quietly installed. His name? James Alexander. A name many people barely noticed before. A young royal who stood in the background while headlines were consumed by scandals, interviews, memoirs, lawsuits, and endless emotional warfare. But now, the palace has shifted the spotlight with surgical precision. While Harry shouted, James stayed silent. While others sold drama, he sold discipline. And suddenly, the boy in the background became the man in position. This is where it gets savage. The monarchy hates a vacuum. It always replaces what walks away. Harry once believed the role of spare made him irreplaceable. He built an entire global identity around being the wounded prince, the sidelined son, the misunderstood insider. But the palace has now answered that narrative with devastating simplicity. If one spare leaves, another can be prepared. And James Alexander appears to be that answer. No screaming interviews, no accusations, no tell-all books, no dramatic confessions under studio lights. James reportedly began doing something far more dangerous to Harry's brand. He simply showed up. State events, formal appearances, quiet duty, respectful posture, calm presence, the kind of behavior that doesn't trend online but wins inside institutions. And institutions, unlike social media, remember consistency. That contrast is lethal. Harry and Meghan built power through visibility, but visibility can burn fast. The palace is built on patience, ritual, repetition, and endurance. While the Sussex machine chased headlines, Buckingham was preparing continuity. While one side monetized disruption, the other side was investing in stability. That is why James Alexander's rise feels less like promotion and more like replacement. Now think about the emotional brutality of this. Harry once positioned himself as the only relatable young royal, the Martin face the monarchy needed. But what happens when another younger royal appears, stays disciplined, avoids scandal, and gains public goodwill without torching the family? Suddenly, Harry's leverage weakens. Suddenly, the argument that the monarchy needed him begins to collapse. Suddenly, exile looks less like punishment and more like obsolescence. And then came the commercial cracks. Hollywood was once sold the Royal Rebels package: prestige, controversy, glamour, victimhood, access. Huge deals followed. Massive expectations followed. But whispers grew louder when projects slowed, contracts cooled, and excitement turned into fatigue. In celebrity culture, the fall rarely comes with a trumpet. It arrives through silence. Fewer calls, fewer invitations, fewer defenders. That is why the palace timing looks almost ruthless. As the glamour faded abroad, relevance was being rebuilt at home. As the Sussex narrative became louder and more complicated, the royal machine responded with cleaner imagery, service, youth, duty, continuity. No argument, just optics. No direct attack, just substitution. And substitution is sometimes the harshest revenge of all. Even more chilling is what King Charles signaled personally. A father declining to meet a son is emotional pain. A monarch declining to meet a liability is strategic containment. Which one was it? That question now haunts every royal watcher. Because if this was only family tension, it might heal. But if this was institutional calculation, then the door may be closing in slow motion right before the world's eyes. Meanwhile, James Alexander does not need to say anything. He doesn't need a viral quote. He doesn't need a podcast. He doesn't need to explain himself. Every appearance says enough. Every handshake says enough. Every quiet step beside senior royals says enough. Sometimes power speaks loudest when it never opens its mouth. And perhaps that is the deepest humiliation in this entire saga. Harry left believing the institution would miss him, that without his charisma, relatability, and star power, the monarchy would feel incomplete. But what if the monarchy's answer is this? No one is bigger than the system. Not even blood. Not even pain. Not even a prince. Now the question hanging over Montecito is terrifyingly simple. If the king would not meet Harry, what exactly is Harry's route back? Public sympathy has limits. Celebrity alliances fade, family wounds harden. And once another figure has been accepted into the role you abandoned, return becomes harder than departure. So here we are, a king who chose distance, a son left outside the frame, and a new spare rising quietly through the smoke. James Alexander may not have stolen the crown spotlight with drama. He may have taken something more valuable: trust. And in royal history, trust is the currency that outlasts titles, fame, and even blood itself. The real earthquake began after the silence. That is what many people still do not understand. King Charles refusing to meet Prince Harry was shocking, yes, but silence was only the opening strike. What followed was far colder, far smarter, and far more permanent. Because while the world argued over whether the king had gone too far, Buckingham Palace quietly kept moving forward without Harry in the picture at all. No emergency summit, no public plea for reconciliation, no visible concern that the Duke of Sussex had been cut out. Instead, the machine kept running smoothly, and that smoothness may be the most devastating insult Harry has ever faced. For years, Harry's greatest weapon was the belief that the monarchy needed him more than it admitted. He was the charismatic prince, the war veteran, the younger brother who gave the institution warmth and edge. He knew how to draw crowds. He knew how to generate headlines. He knew how to look modern in a system often accused of looking ancient. But what happens when the institution proves it can breathe perfectly well without you? What happens when your absence creates not collapse, but calm? That is the nightmare now surrounding Montecito. And into that calm walked James Alexander. No noise, no ego, no public demands. Just the exact type of figure the palace loves most. Someone who understands that in royal life, being dependable often matters more than being dazzling. That is why insiders are whispering that James is not merely being introduced. He is being shaped carefully, quietly, deliberately. Every appearance, every placement, every photograph besides senior royals sends the same coded message: this is the future we are choosing. That message becomes even harsher when compared to Harry's current position. Once the rebellious prince looked unstoppable. Massive streaming deals, high-profile interviews, global fascination, Hollywood connections. But fascination has a shelf life, and public sympathy burns faster than people think. When the original drama fades, only substance remains. And critics increasingly ask the question the Sussex camp never wanted asked: after all the headlines, what was actually built? The palace appears to know the answer, and their strategy reflects it. They are no longer fighting Harry publicly because they no longer need to. Why wrestle with a narrative when time is dismantling it for you? Why issue statements when your silence looks stronger? Why engage in emotional warfare when a younger royal can quietly occupy the space once dominated by the exiled prince? This is not revenge through confrontation. It is revenge through replacement. There is also a deeply personal sting inside all of this. Harry once stood beside Prince William as the loyal younger brother, the backup bloodline, the relatable contrast to the future king. He knew the rhythm of palace life better than almost anyone. Yet now another younger royal may be learning that rhythm while Harry watches from thousands of miles away. Imagine seeing the institution adapt without you. Imagine realizing the role you thought was uniquely yours was simply a role waiting for the next occupant. Even the public mood appears to be shifting in dangerous ways for the Sussex brand. Fatigue has replaced fascination in many circles. What once felt brave now feels repetitive to some critics. What once felt explosive now feels predictable. And predictability is poison in celebrity culture. Meanwhile, James Alexander benefits from the opposite effect. He is new enough to intrigue, quiet enough to avoid backlash, and royal enough to symbolize continuity. That combination can become powerful very quickly. Then there is the cruelest truth of all: the monarchy does not need to defeat Harry emotionally. It only needs to outlast him structurally. Institutions play longer games than individuals. A celebrity cycle lasts months. A family feud lasts years. A monarchy thinks in decades. That is why James matters so much. He represents not a headline, but a timeline. He suggests the palace is planning beyond scandal, beyond interviews, beyond Netflix seasons, beyond memoir outrage. They are planning for the next generation. And if they are planning for the next generation, where exactly does Harry fit? That question grows darker each month. He is too royal to be fully normal, too controversial to be fully institutional, too famous to disappear, yet too distant to influence the crown. It is an awkward space, visible but detached, titled but peripheral, known everywhere yet central nowhere. For a man born near the heart of monarchy, that may be the loneliest position of all. Meanwhile, King Charles has revealed something about leadership many missed: illness, pressure, family scandal, constitutional duty, and still Still, he chose clarity over sentiment. Whether people admire or hate that decision, it sent a message that the crown comes first. That principle has guided royal survival for centuries. Personal pain can be hidden, family fractures can be managed, but institutional weakness is never tolerated for long. Harry may have hoped blood would outweigh structure. The palace appears to have decided the opposite, and so the symbolism becomes impossible to ignore. Harry, the prince who once dominated global attention, now stands outside the palace gates while James Alexander steps quietly through them. One man chose freedom and public voice. The other appears to be choosing restraint and service. One chased relevance through exposure. The other may gain relevance through discipline. History has a habit of rewarding whichever model lasts longer. Could Harry ever return? Technically, perhaps. Emotionally, maybe. Structurally, that is where the wall rises. Because return is harder once succession plans move on without you. Return is harder once the public adjusts to new faces. Return is harder once silence has become policy. And return is hardest when someone younger, calmer, and less divisive is already being welcomed into the space you left behind. That is why this story feels bigger than gossip now. It is no longer just about family drama or tabloid war. It is about power changing hands without ceremony. It is about relevance being reassigned in plain sight. It is about a prince discovering that departure was easier than replacement. And it is about a monarchy reminding the world that no matter how loud the rebellion becomes, the institution always prefers the one who simply shows up and does the work. So as the cameras keep scanning Montecito and the palace keeps its face unreadable, one truth grows louder in the silence. Prince Harry may not have been formally exiled by decree, but if the future is being built without him, the result may feel exactly the same. And somewhere inside royal walls, James Alexander keeps walking forward while the door behind him closes inch by inch.